Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel, Meet Me in the Center. My name is Andrew. The cat you see cleaning himself over there is Shadow. Just fair warning before we start this video, the people underneath me are doing some renovations, so you might hear some loud noises, some banging coming from somewhere. Unfortunately, this is the time today where I can record these, so I'm just gonna have to power through it and forgive the audio. So I am doing something that I thought I was never going to do. I am going to be commentating on a music video. Now, to be fair, this is not a reaction to this music video. I have already listened to this song multiple times, and I listened to it, and I think it is very appropriate for some of the things I'm talking about, and I thought it would be cool to just put my 2 cents on top of the video. So here we go. This is Sheeple by Tom MacDonald. If you have not heard of Tom MacDonald before, check out his music. He is fantastic. He's not just a political rapper. He has a whole bunch of different songs that he's done. I suggest going down the Tom MacDonald rabbit hole and checking it out for yourself. I have listened to every song he's ever put out, and I love what he says. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, and to me that's okay, because you're never going to completely agree with someone. But I do think that he makes some very valid points. So, Tom MacDonald Sheeple.
Humans been controlled since the day that they were civilized. The truth has been so heavily politicized.
Okay, so there are going to be a lot of pauses in this video. If you want to see the video in full, I suggest going to his video and watching it. You can always watch that first and come back here. I will leave that in the description below if you do want to watch it in full. All right, the truth has been so heavily politicized. Yes, absolutely. It used to be that if you were fighting a war, the victor wrote the history. So basically, I'll use World War II as an example. Now, I don't understand why I have to even say this, but I'm completely against the Nazis, what they did, what they stood for, all of that stuff. Apparently you need to say that in this day and age because it's not necessarily clear to people, which is sad and pathetic. But if they had won and the Allies had not, do you think the history would be told the same way it is now? Of course not. They would twist it in a way that, you know, they were doing the right thing in some way, shape, or form. So, and now today, a way of controlling the narrative is controlling the truth, or what people call the truth, which isn't really the truth, it's just what people want to make you believe is the truth. So yeah, it's all about control. It always has been, ever since day one.
If you don't know who's controlling you and killing all the little guys, find out who you're not allowed to criticize.
Yeah, so for this, yeah, it's very interesting to me that you can say certain things online and it might get you a little flack from one group or another, but there are certain topics, and this is what I find very interesting, is you say those topics and both sides come after you. And I find that very interesting. Now, why would both sides come after you on anything? Because usually one side would at least agree with you. Well, if something is controlling both sides, they can use it to come after you, can't they? And that can kind of show you where the cracks are in the system.
If you don't know who's controlling you and killing all the little guys, find out who you're not allowed to criticize. Black folks who were never ever actual slaves, fighting with white folks who ain't actual Nazis.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna get flack for that. Yeah, so I don't understand the whole argument, and it's been used against me before. I have to apologize because my ancestors were slave owners. Well, now I've done work on my family tree. My family has done work on the family tree. We can't go, unfortunately, as far back as we would like. Records were destroyed. There's too big of a gap, and we haven't been able to find anything. But I can tell you for at least the last 5 generations, no one in my family has owned slaves. We were fairly poor. There was some money at some point, but it all disappeared. We don't know where or how, but so yeah, we didn't. And actually, my ancestors were slaves as well. What's funny? The people living at Britain in the time became slaves for the Romans. And what I find funny is I've actually pointed that out to people, and people have said, well, that slavery wasn't as bad as being a black person in America, so yeah, my slavery is worse. And I'm like, so you're saying some slavery is okay? Like, what? I thought all slavery was bad, personally, but apparently, hey, it's okay if you were a slave to the Romans, but not if you were a slave to in America. Personally, I'm against all slavery, so there you go. I have a feeling he also put this in just to be a little troll. But that's okay. I don't mind that, actually. I think people need to have their buttons poked every now and again. I really think it is good for them. I have a problem with the left calling basically anyone who disagrees with them a Nazi. It's the boys and girls who cried wolf. I'll give you an actual example of something similar that happened. So when Hillary Clinton ran against Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary, he was called a sexist. Now, if you know anything about Bernie Sanders, it doesn't seem like he is. I don't know his personal life. I don't know him personally, obviously. But it does not seem that he is sexist. And then she goes up against Donald Trump and tries to pull the same trick. Well, I know everyone has an opinion on Donald Trump. I'm not going to get into what my opinion is right here. But that whole idea of him being sexist was diluted by the fact that she'd already called Bernie Sanders sexist. So if I go around and say he's a Nazi, she's a Nazi, 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 when the actual Nazi shows up, people are going to be like, yeah, you just think everyone's a Nazi. No, but this one is actually a Nazi. Yeah, but you say that about everyone. Again, the boy and girls who cried wolf.
Controlled by rich folks who use the news to make hate, while elite folks control other political parties.
Yeah, so the elites and the rich are winning, and we're bickering among ourselves because they want us to not get along so that they can divide and conquer. Just saying.
Controlled by rich folks who use the news to make hate, while elite folks control other political parties. It's a big lie, trying to make you pick sides, trying to make you burn the cities down and kill each other. They got sick minds, big lies, keep on the police so that there's big crime. They take away our freedom to restore order, they let die.
Yeah, so he released another song fairly recently called Brainwashed. I suggest everyone go and listen to it. In the last section of rap he does, sorry, I don't know all the lingo for rap songs or anything like that. In the last section he raps the 8-step program. I believe it was 8 steps. In order for them to basically divide, incite violence, and then control. And yeah, this is that just again. Yeah, oh, let's defund the police because the police are horrible people. Okay. Oh wait, crime has gone up. Now we need to come in and take away your rights and make laws a lot harsher to control all these crazy people running around. There's nothing like giving away rights in order to feel safe, but people generally do that regularly. And it makes me wonder, could it be the elites that are whispering in people's ear, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea not to have the police the way they are, let's defund them. And then those people go and think it's their great idea, and then they take the credit, and hey, look at that. The elites get exactly what they want. Weird how those things work.
Defund the police so that there's big crime. They take away our freedom to restore order they let die. Play with people, turn men into women. Make the counterculture mainstream to mix up the system. Change the pronouns. The gender is a spectrum, so is privilege. I know poor white folks and black celebrities with billions.
And that's what I've been dealing with all day. So yeah, if they keep changing the goalpost on you, how do you ever score a goal? That would be the first thing, just at the first part of those lines. The second would be, now, just because one thing is a spectrum doesn't mean the next thing is a spectrum, although, truth be told, 99.9% of things are a spectrum. People want you to believe that they're all black and white, but really, they're 1,000 shades of gray in between. So yeah, I know both white and black folks who, there's some white folks I know that are like poorer than poor, some that are doing very well for themselves. I know some black people who are poor and in horrible situations, and I know some that are very rich as well. It's not like, it's very stereotypical to say that, oh, well, all white people have privilege. I can tell you, where I live in Canada, I have been followed and stopped more times by police than my black friends have. Now, yes, this is Canada. Things are a little bit different here, but it's hard to say that, oh, everyone in a certain race or nationality. Everyone in a certain race or nationality is one thing. That's very stereotypical, and that's borderline racist in my opinion. So yeah, I totally agree with him.
The gender is a spectrum, so is privilege. I know poor white folks and black celebrities with billions. They starve you with a lack of information and only give you facts through a branded corporation.
3 hours and counting. All right. Yeah. So a way of controlling is, again, feeding you the narrative. And if they control the facts and how something is put out, then yeah, they control it. And it's very, very hard if enough corporations line up, like Google and YouTube and like the mainstream news, if they're all working together to kind of sort of push one side, it's going to be very, very hard to get the other. Believe me, I know, because generally when I learn about an issue, I want to hear both sides, and it has been frustrating at times to try and find information if they don't want you to find it.
They starve you with a lack of information and only give you facts through a branded corporation. Distort your worldview with an algorithm that changes based on propaganda curated for your engagement. We can be free.
Yes, and I know there's been a lot of pausing in this video. Again, if you want to check out the video in full, go to Tom MacDonald's page and check it out there. Yeah. So the fun of living in an apartment with very thin walls and thin flooring. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's a form of control. If they keep you angry about certain things, they can keep you distracted from others, right? So if that's constantly changing, how do you ever, again, it's changing the goalposts. How do you ever score if the goalposts suddenly move on you?
Changes based on propaganda curated for your engagement. We can be free. There's no peace till we're on the same team, but y'all are sheep. Live the streets just part of the machine. Y'all are sheep. What do y'all believe? Sheep. Nothing's what it seems.
Okay, yes, unity. Absolutely an important thing that needs to happen that is not going to happen in today's climate. The only way we will ever get results out of our governments is if we unite as people. It's a very old idea, but honestly, I completely believe it. The people should not be afraid of their governments. The government should be afraid of their people. But right now they've got us so twisted and bickering amongst ourselves that they don't even have to be worried. They're just laughing as the elites win.
Nothing's what it seems. Hollywood be wiping your brain, controlling your mouth. You say lit, fleet, bet, cap, they trying to dumb you down. They endorse whatever narrative is popular to shout and use minorities in movies for diversity clout.
I have never used the word cap except to describe a baseball cap. I think those words are silly. Yeah. Using minorities and movies for diversity clout, absolutely. Now, here's the thing, and I know some people are not going to like this opinion. I don't care if The Little Mermaid is black or white. I don't care. The Little Mermaid is a fictional character written in a time when all the fictional characters were white. Just go look back at all the Disney princesses. And of course they were. And you know what? Like I say, I don't care. I even used to think, so for some movies, I think that yes, if it's a white historical figure or a black historical figure, I think honestly that maybe they should be played by that race. But then again, I also watched Hamilton, the musical, which I absolutely love that musical, by the way. And so, I mean, it didn't bother me at all that like any of the characters that were supposed to be white were played by black people. Any of the characters that were black were played by white people. I agree with Lin-Manuel Miranda in that it should be meritocracy. In other words, whoever's the best should get the part. But that's just my opinion. You guys might disagree, but yeah, that's what I believe personally.
Whatever narrative is popular to shout and use minorities in movies for diversity clout. Two sides on the spectrum, but ain't none of them honest. Took the red pill and the blue pill, spit them both in the garbage.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, they're both playing for the same people anyway. It's the same in the States. It's the same corporations funding both parties. So it doesn't matter if you're red or blue in the end. It's still working towards their goals and not yours.
Sides on the spectrum, but ain't none of them honest. Took the red pill and the blue pill, spit them both in the garbage. Being woke used to mean you understood you were target, and now it's having two good legs and never taking a step forward.
I hate the concept of woke. It is so ridiculous.
Used to mean you understood you were target, If you agree, it's free speech. Disagree, it's hate speech. Erase it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. If you're part of the group, oh, then you absolutely agree with it, so it should be protected. If you're not part of that group, well, then it's hate speech and it needs to be deleted immediately, and you need to be taken off all the platforms. That's a convenient argument. What happens when that gets turned around on them? Do they be like, oh, are people like, oh, okay, well, that's fair? No, they whine and complain that they're being targeted for things. Just saying.
Never taking a step forward. If you agree, it's free speech. Disagree, it's hate speech. Erase it if it came from anywhere except the mainstream. Trump supporters labeled as the racist, but that can't be. Lincoln was Republican, and that's who ended slavery.
Yep. I mean, I can't disagree with him. I'm sorry. Most Republicans are not racists. They're not Nazis. They're just people like you or I. Same with liberals. It's kind of sad that the vocal minority has taken control, and both groups are allowing it. If you're in those groups, you need to start taking control back of your own ideologies, because they are twisting them, and I don't think you're going to like what happens in the future. I mean, I used to consider myself a liberal, and I started to see what was happening, and no, I'm definitely not that. And that's the way that group is going, and they're allowing it. And I think in part that's because people, well, A, they want to be part of a group, and B, they don't want to rock the boat for fear of what's happening to the other side. Because if they do that, then they'll be seen like the other side, and then they'll be treated like the other side, and they don't like how the other side is treated if it were them. They're okay doing it to the other side, just not if it were them, right? A little bit of hypocrisy, but there you go. And yeah, Lincoln was Republican. He was the one that ended slavery, but again, apparently Lincoln's racist, and we should tear down his monument because history doesn't matter anymore. I don't know what else to say about it.
Supporters labeled as the racist, but that can't be. Lincoln was Republican, and that's who ended slavery. Science been politicized, it's easy to see. A mask became a symbol of which side you believe. But you'll never cure a sickness till you cure the greed, because the problem with our natural immunity is it's free.
So I would love to spend hours talking about a certain virus and a certain pandemic. I would like to talk about certain vaccines. And I know that if I say what I want to say, even though it's completely based in fact, and I would include all of those as I said it, I know that it's still going to get taken down. I know that there will be consequences for me saying those things. So that for sure is an issue. CNN brought to you by Pfizer. I still can't believe that's a thing, as they're running news stories about Pfizer stuff. Yeah, what a world we live in. And yes, it's an inconvenient thing that we have natural immunity. I've had certain virus more than once at this point, and I've been exposed at least one more time to people who have had it, and I never got a symptom the third time around. Was I still carrying it? Possibly, but I had zero symptoms. But again, they can't profit off that because that's your own immunity. So they've got to spin a narrative, and oh boy, yeah, let's trust companies like Pfizer, who have had so many fines slapped against them for lying about research, for manipulating research. Oh yeah, but we should trust them with their research on this.
Never cure a sickness till you cure the greed, because the problem with our liquor and pharmaceuticals.
If you're addicted, it's easier to control you. They increase your stress. They tell you the world's about to end in 20,000 different ways. And then you need a release of some sort. So you go to alcohol, you go to drugs. Some people go to porn, whatever it is. And so they can just feed you a little bit, just enough to keep you going. And you're much more easily controlled that way. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Everyone comes out of the woodwork after you die to say how great of a person you were and how they're gonna miss you, and I have actually seen this happen in my life, where a friend of mine sadly died in a car accident. Someone who was drinking and driving hit him, and my friend died. And I know people came out of the woodwork that literally had told him in his life that if he ever contacted them again, they were going to, try to get restraining orders against him. Certain ex of his, for instance, had done that, and then tweeted out, oh my God, the world is such a worse off place because he's gone, and then showed up at the funeral and cried all through it because she had to look good.
We can't be free. Have no peace till we're on the same team. But y'all are sheep. Look disgrace as part of the machine. Y'all are sheep. What do y'all believe? Sheep. Nothing's what it seems.
People are unfortunately sheep. It blows my mind how people can just, take what someone else says and believe that that's it's almost faith at this point. It's almost a religion. Oh, well, you're part of my group, so clearly you have my best interest in mind as you tell me that I should believe this. And they don't question it. They don't try to find information for themselves, and then they go and run with it. And then you or someone points out some awkward truth that goes against their points, and they implode. I've seen it happen. They can't handle it, and so then that's where they, basically throw a temper tantrum. Yeah, if you don't have a position, if you don't have an argument, that's when people start to call you names. That's when people, start to scream and try to shut you down because they don't have any sort of argument for their thing because they haven't thought it through. Do your own research, people. Figure it out for yourselves.
They want you dumb and dead. They divided you by race, religion, income, and sex.
Divide and conquer. It's that simple. Again, it's one of the oldest strategies that we developed as a race. Divide and conquer. And divided we will fall. There's nothing really more to say about that. And it's, they just keep adding. They just keep adding more ways that people will be divided. Because, if we ever solve one, well, they need at least 6 more, so people keep fighting.
They confuse you. They want you dumb and dead. They divided you by race, religion, income, and sex. Made everybody right and left. The hatred got so intense. If the other side likes oxygen, you'll put a bag on your head.
Yeah, when did that start? That's a real thing. Now, I don't mean that people are literally putting bags on their heads because oxygen, because one side likes oxygen. But it literally, if one side comes out with something, the other has to be the extreme opposite. Well, at least that's what they're telling you. I don't think that's actually true. If you look at polling on a lot of issues in the States, in Canada, and so on and so forth, and you look at each side, the left and the right, there is way more common ground than you think between most people. But they don't want to show you that because, hey, if there's common ground, maybe we can meet in the center. Shameless plug. And then, you know, maybe we might start actually thinking like, yeah, why can't we get things? We're all here. But, you know, they don't want you to have that.
Right and left, the hatred got so intense. If the other side likes oxygen, you'll put a bag on your head. And the conspiracy theories labeled as misinformation is just a terrifying truth that scares the hell out of the nation.
Okay, conspiracy theories, yes. They wouldn't be an issue if some of them weren't true. If a conspiracy theory never turned out to be true, then we wouldn't have conspiracy theories. The problem is, you know, government doesn't want to talk about what they've done. They won't show evidence to their people. And a recent conspiracy theory that, remember, it was racist to think that maybe this was a lab leak at one point. And it was a conspiracy theory. Oh, you know, you're crazy. And now it looks like that's exactly what it was. But hey, you know, what do we know? We're just the stupid people.
Conspiracy theories labeled as misinformation is just a terrifying truth that scares the hell out of the nation. The system treating you like trash and you got rifles to aim with. Just imagine how they'll treat you when your guns get confiscated, George.
Okay, that's not as big an issue here in Canada. We have significantly less guns and significantly less gun deaths than in the States. Maybe those two things are connected. I don't know. I would think so, but I'm going to be doing a video on guns, gun control, and all of that at some point. So I don't want to go too deep into it. I understand why Americans want their guns. It is their right to bear arms. I completely get that. I don't think that should be taken away from them. I think there should be things done to kind of improve the laws instead of take it away completely personally. But again, I'm going to get more in depth in that in a video on its own.
Like trash, you got rifles to aim with. Just imagine how they'll treat you when your guns get confiscated. George Orwell, 1984 was his last lecture. George called them thought police. Now we call them fact checkers.
I mean, what else can you say? George Orwell was a genius. His writing is amazing. I've read everything he's written. I read 1984 in high school for the first time. Not for a school project, actually. I read Fahrenheit 451 for an English essay, and I'm like that really started to wake me up to some of the things that happen in society, and I'm like, oh, I want more of this. So I literally looked up things like similar books and stuff, and that got me onto George Orwell, and yeah. Fantastic. And he's absolutely right. Thought police, instead of that, it's fact checkers. And who checks those facts? Well, it's the people in control. So if they are allowed to set what is fact, which isn't fact, but we'll pretend, then if everything that goes against what they're saying is fake news, that's a little problematic, is it not? Because that leads to censorship, that leads to a whole bunch of things that are a bad path to go down, in my opinion.
1984 was his last lecture. George called them thought police. Now we call them fact checkers. Government surveillance trying to catch you. They don't ask questions. Mass incarceration equals capital for cash investors. Yeah,
so the U.S. has more people in prison per, I think it's, I forget what the numbers are, but like per million people, the US has more people in prison than any other country in the world, including China. That should tell you something. That is the new form of slavery, incidentally. There are some prisons in the States where you as an inmate have to work. And they don't have to pay you anything if everyone has to work. It sounds a lot like slavery to me. Or they can pay you, like 10 cents where, someone else would be making, well, here in Canada, here where I live, minimum wage is now $15.50 in Ontario. So, I mean, 10 cents compared to $15.50. Yeah, that's basically slavery. Oh, and your life is taken away from you. Oh, and by the way, yeah, we've built all these prisons and they're for profit, so we need to fill people with it. So hey, police, why don't you arrest more people so we can fill our prisons with it? And then, hey, look, corporations can make money from them too at the same time. So I've put together a list of some of the corporations, by the way, that have profited from prisons. It's an interesting list. Now some of them are happening now. Some of them have happened in the past. But some of them on this list go like this: McDonald's, Wendy's, Walmart, Starbucks, Sprint, Verizon, Victoria's Secret, JCPenney, Kmart, American Airlines, Avis, and Honda. Well, if they can pay 10 cents, instead of whatever minimum wage is, why not? Why not take advantage? It seems obvious. They have to make a profit, don't they? And so we can enslave more people. We can not try to reform them. We can turn them into animals. And then they can go back to jail once they get out, because that's what happens. And then they can work again for free or for very little money. Hey, perfect system. Works for someone, right?
Surveillance trying to catch you, they don't ask questions. Mass incarceration equals capital for cash investors. The system isn't broke, it's working fine. Oppressive and chaotic is how it was designed.
Yep. It's working great for the people who are working it. Yeah, pretty much. If there's a huge pile of shit, it's hard to wade through it. So if everything is chaos and everything is oppressing you, then, how are you going to see through it? How are you going to get through it? That's what they want. They don't want people getting through it. The whole point of the system is let everyone fight so that we can take control at the top.
The system isn't broke, it's working fine. Oppressive and chaotic is how it was designed. They say if we ain't doing nothing wrong, there's nothing.
Hey, so my recording just cut out. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I think I've gotten it back to where it was. And I was about to speak about an interesting situation that I've seen on YouTube with police. So, again, talking about First Amendment auditors, you can have your opinion on whether they're a good thing or not. That's fine. I think if you don't exercise your rights, you lose them personally. But that's just my opinion. So when these people are filmed by the police and the police ask them for ID, in certain states they don't have to provide it if they're not committing crimes, if they're not suspected of a crime, etc. And so they choose to invoke that right. And the cops always come around and say, well, if you're not hiding anything, why are you worried about being identified? Well, why are these cops so worried about cameras following them around? It's interesting to me how, you need to identify because we say so, but don't identify us, don't follow us, don't expose us. Very interesting.
Your rights in school, you never learn them at all, because they're easy to remove if you don't know what they are.
Hey, if they control the education, they can keep you stupid. I personally don't think schools teach anything that they need to teach. they basically just teach how you should be a good member of society. Good in quotation marks. Good how they want you to be good in society. Yeah. Again, this is going to be a whole video I go in depth with, so I don't want to go too deep into it here.
Your rights in school, you never learn them at all, cause they're easy to remove if you don't know what they are. The only people you can rule are the criminal ones, so they force you into corners till you're breaking the law.
Yeah, again, criminals have a lot less rights than average citizens do. So hey, if we can turn you criminal, if we can arrest you and charge you with something, yeah, it's way more convenient for them, because then they can control you more. You go into those prisons and you know, you go into those prisons and you know, work for these companies for nothing, and everyone makes money. Everyone makes money but you. You are just the dumb schmuck at the end of the chain.
The rule are the criminal ones, so they force you into corners till you're breaking the law. We can't be free, can't have no peace till we're on the same team, but y'all are sheep. Blue the screen's just part of the machine. Y'all are sheep. What do y'all believe? Nothing's what it seems.
Yeah, so I think that was a great song by Tom MacDonald. If you did as well, go and show him love. Go watch it on his channel if you haven't already. I am definitely part of the Hog Nation, the Hangover Gang. And yeah, those are just some of my opinions on some of the things he was talking about. So if you like this video, you know, hit the like button, comment on it. What did you think? Did you think he got it right? Did you think he got it wrong? What did you agree with? What didn't you? And if you feel like it, subscribe. But if not, hey, you know what? That's totally up to you. Until the next video, I hope you have a good day or good week, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.